What's good, everybody? What up, what up, what up? Kahlief here with another one of our fantastic dev interviews. I get to rock with one of the dopest cats in the space, Ariel Knight, maker of Ariel Knight, Never Yield. One of my favorite games of this year. Something that when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling low, I bump the soundtrack to that bad boy and get it started. Ariel, thank you so much for being here and rocking with me today. Super excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, what's good, man? Thanks for having me. This is super dope.
Man, look, I have been wanting to get to talk to you for a minute. I remember again, so we go back a minute at this point. We've been
Yeah,
doing
it's been a
this
while.
both. We've been doing this for a while. I
Yeah,
remember
I
seeing,
knew. I remember when you didn't have gray in your beard. That's how
yo,
long it's been.
it's kind of wild. I didn't when we first met. Ain't that the truth, man? I
Yeah,
remember. I think we met at a Black and Gaming event at GDC. Is where we
yeah,
first
yeah, yeah,
initially got a chance to come across each other's paths. So I have
yeah.
been super familiar with your work for a long time. I've been rooting for you. I know I've been seeing in spits and spurts, like little prototypes here and there of stuff that you were working on, and we'd be in the same circles. You'd be like, "Hey, y'all, I need some folks to look at my work and give me kind of second set of eyes on stuff." And now you come out with one of my favorite games of this year, or of 2021, I should say. I want to hear your story about, how you got into the space and how you've been kind of making your way into the game dev and the game dev arena.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, just been hustling away for like you said, about 10 years or so now. Got to meet some really awesome people. Just traveling around, going to GDCs, trying to find opportunities. With various levels of success. So basically, went off on my own just to kind of make my own thing as a like one last ditch effort to be a part of the game industry. I tell a lot of people I got super duper lucky. It was like right place, right time, and people gravitated towards what I was trying to do. So it just all really worked out. And now I'm trying to use the little bit of juice that I have with this game being out there to kind of promote other indies and make sure other people get that same kind of chance that I got.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see again. Like, I think one of the dopest parts about you being in the space now is that you find people who are really passionate about their work, but you also find people who are like you who are finding really smart niches to kind of jump into and figure out good ways to, poke at things that other parts of the industry doesn't care about, but you really love, and you can bring that energy to the space. When you think about Never Yield and the game that you've made, what's the kind of story that you're trying to tell with this game? What's the vibe that you're going for this game for folks who might not have had a chance to play it?
Yeah, so at the core of it is what you would see as a runner. Those old school runners that we all played when we were a little bit younger. And I want to take something classic like that no one's really done anything with in a while, and just infuse it with bunch of style and like flair that only somebody with who comes from that community can kind of put into it. So I gave the game cutscenes. I gave it a dope soundtrack. I made a character that reflected that in an environment that like helped push that along, and just tried to see what I could do with this in a different way that normal game developers don't normally think of doing things.
Yeah, I love the fact that you have infused, and this is the thing that I remember when I first got to pick up the sticks and turn it on for the first time. I like booted up my console, I put that joint on, and I was like, this might be the best soundtrack I've ever heard in a game. Like, it
That's
is
what I've been saying.
it is, and this and you have been saying that though, and I think that you've nailed it. I think you and the folks that you've brought into the fold to kind of make this audio soundscape be what it is. There's nothing in the space right now that's touching this in terms of layering that hip hop aesthetic with the runner genre in this way. How early on did you kind of understand that this was the direction that you wanted to go in for the game?
Oh, I was winging it the whole time. No, making the game, I had a different sound in mind, but nothing like felt right. I kind of make games based off of feeling. So, I kind of do stuff, put it out there, and if it doesn't feel right, I kind of just like readjust into I get into that mode. And my friend Dan, who did all the music, Daniel Wilkins, he really helped push that forward. And we just went back to saying, yo, I know we're trying to avoid putting hip hop in here, but like it's what we love the most, so we might as well just go all in with what we enjoy. So it kind of just worked out, and I think people can really feel that all of it is connected and all of it came from like a single vision.
It also feels like it drives the gameplay in a way that I'm a huge fan of games like Amplitude and Rock Band and things that incorporate music within the game space. But it feels like this mashup of not only the way that the soundtrack kind of guides you through the levels and kind of builds every time you jump over an obstacle, you kind of get towards the middle and ends of a level, and how the crescendo kind of comes together. It feels like that essence of that kind of community parts of where it lands hit really well. I want to go back to you growing up as young Ariel. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're from Detroit, right? Originally.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Detroit.
so coming from D, and then making a game like this, how much of that kind of homegrownness and those parts of pulling from Detroit kind of came into the development of the game too? Because there aren't a lot of devs, at least from what I remember, that are coming out of that space. I know a couple personally, you included, but there aren't a lot of, there isn't like the hub of game dev coming out of Detroit. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
No, there's a handful of us up here. We all hang out and just kind of make our own things. We all There's actually a few of us who came out around the same time. Like last year was like a big year for Michigan game development. But as far as influences on the game, people from Detroit, who play the game can like clearly point out certain things like the high school that you're running through, and how the freeways are set up, and just how the overall like mood of the game. It's not a 1-to-1 match, but like people from Detroit can like definitely feel it.
Yeah. Um, when you're thinking about the kind of development process, and we talked a little bit about where we first met in the GDC spaces and all that kind of stuff. Who are some of the folks that, when you were thinking about like, I want to go into this and make the game that I've always wanted to, that you were like, I want to ask them about their dev experiences, or folks that I want to kind of find for mentors or any of that kind of stuff? Like, who are the folks you were reaching out to in your kind of early parts of becoming a dev in the space?
Definitely like Sierra from ID at Xbox at the
Mm.
time. James. It was a lot of Xbox people I was talking to actually, just because they we just happened to know a bunch of people over there, and they were really cool. Gave me a lot of good feedback, and they were in the industry long enough to kind of tell me what steps right left to kind of make sure it was more accessible to the people I wanted it to go to.
And when you start the process of kind of making a game your own, and understanding what you have the beginning parts of the framework for what you thought it was going to be. Actually, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts about that, because I think games never end up where they start. They never, from the conceptual
Uh,
phases, never really get from, hardly ever they are the same and consistent throughout the whole development process. Did Never Yield ever look really different from a like what it was going to be perspective in comparison to where it landed?
it always stayed around the same as far as like the style and certain things. I tweak things here and there, but the core thing was my I was insecure about the things about the game that people love the most. So there are certain
Mm.
things in the game. There's like three specific levels that I do things completely differently. Early on in the game, in the middle of the game with the van level. If anybody's played,
Mm-hmm.
they know the van level, and then the surprise at the end. The whole game was based around that end level, that last level, because it's completely different and it took pretty much 30% of development time just to
Huh.
make that one level. But I didn't know what people were like. So I overwhelmed them with what they knew and then added those surprises in there. And now that I know that those different things people really gravitate towards more, if I was to like add more to it, like I would definitely just add more of those things.
Huh. So now that the game has been out, I love that you shared the conversation about like finding out what people really liked, right? I think everybody who I've ever spoken to who has made a game has always talked about the happy surprises that you wind up finding throughout the game development and then launch. What were some of those for you? Were you finding, like you said, some folks were gravitating towards very specific levels? I'm sure because it's a runner, everybody was trying to top everybody else's times, and you were, you design a thing to be like, all right, probably the best time you can get on this level is around this, and then people started to break stuff like that. What were some of the kind of happy surprises that you wind up seeing after the game had been out in the world?
Yeah, people ran through that game a lot quicker than I thought. My initial play times were around like 2.5 hours or so,
Yeah.
but sending out early previews and stuff, they were destroying that time. So I had to go back, and I think I kind of just post everything on Twitter and just
Yeah.
ask people what they think. I was like, "Yo, the game's a lot shorter than I thought. I don't know how to go about this. What do y'all think?" Just because I try to just be really transparent with like what I'm doing and how I'm feeling at the time. And I always get like the best replies back. The best people to ask is the people playing the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, they gave me some good suggestions. I definitely took them. And that was the best thing, was just getting that immediate feedback online. And if this was like a studio or something like that, there's no way they wouldn't let me post that on Twitter and just be like, "Yo."
No, I love that, right? I think there is this really interesting space that you and other indie devs, especially folks who are making solo projects or working on solo projects, kind of land in, right? Where you wind up getting some help from, your peers. You wind up asking folks in kind of unorthodox ways of like how to make your game better in a way that is really forward facing, which is difficult for a lot of folks, especially because these are your babies. These are the things that you spent years on building and trying to make sure that they're dope. So I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that you
Oh,
had that kind of thing.
before we before
Yeah.
we go on,
Yeah.
so there's one extra thing that I want to add to that, because so I made the choice. I was like, I'm gonna make these achievements as easy as possible. All you have to do is play the game to get these achievements. But then I was like, I'll save one achievement and make it super hard,
Mm.
which was like the mini game that you had to find. And I got so much like so many emails and messages saying, "Yo, you need to add a replay button," because I don't want to do this. I was like, "But I gave you 99% of them for free, and now you getting on me about the one that was hard." So that was the other really funny, surprise that I ran into. I thought people would like the challenge, but I guess I turned it up a little bit too much.
You spoiled them. You spoiled them with giving them all the goodies for free. To
Yeah.
say. Um, Besides that kind of being a part of the equation from the audience, how was the reception to the game for the most part? Did you find that it was, again, this was your first kind of major effort of getting a larger game out in this way? How did the audience kind of come to it? How was the reception for it?
Oh, I love the reception. I think it went really well. It was a surprise to a lot of people that like somebody who pretty much solo developed a game could get such high scores. I was outscoring a lot of AAA games that came out the same week. Not that I think scores matter. It's all up to like what you like, really.
Yeah.
But I think the game surprised a lot of people. I think the as I update the game even more, people are gonna gravitate to it even more, and those scores are just going to go up. But in general, the feedback that I got was to be expected, and I'm only one person, so I kind of could predict the things that people might have had issue with, and it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching launch week and kind of just poking in to see how folks were digging it because I knew I had gotten a chance to play a little bit earlier than most folks, but and loved what I was playing. So I was like, "Ooh, I wonder how everybody else is kind of coming to the game." And it was overwhelmingly really positive from what I can tell on my side too. So I was like really happy for you to see that all the hard work you've been putting in for a decade plus is starting to pay off in those ways. Um, how has the dev community kind of come to the game too? I feel like when a game kind of comes out and folks who are in the indie space who are, you know, connected to other folks and again, the game industry is very small in the way that we all kind of talk to each other and are around the same people. Did you get some love from other devs, especially other black devs in the space, to be like, hey, like
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Yeah,
see
my
your
dev
thing launch.
homies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
my dev homies, they always got my back. Like devs always, always come out and try to like support. And I think they just appreciate the story. Like, I don't think stuff like what happened with like Never Yield like happens very often.
yeah,
So I think people kind of like just appreciate that, even if runners weren't their thing. They saw like just how it came about, and they were like, "That's dope."
yeah. So on the runner side of things, when you're making a game like this, I love to dig into the technical bits. Although I am not a dev, and I salute y'all and give y'all massive props for being able to make things come out of your head and make them into things we get a chance to enjoy. When you started the dev process, how were you kind of thinking about tools? Was it a thing? I know, we're doing this alongside Epic, but the tools that a lot of folks are using are outside of that space too. When you were thinking about like what tools do I want to kind of use to get this thing, out of my brain and into the world, what were you thinking about when it came to that layer of it too?
Yeah, so my background was more in Unity already, but Epic had came out with some really awesome tools that I wanted to try out. But for the sake of not trying to learn too many new things, I went with Unity to start with. And once you start making a project, it's really hard to switch over to any other platform. But Unity was awesome. But I wish there was a way I could use both to kind of like develop this game because they both have like such cool different aspects to them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm constantly hearing from developers is about, one, it's really hard, like you said, this switch, especially mid development to another tool set. It's just is
Yeah.
extremely hard to do that. But also, it's a really hard deal to kind of learn on the fly when you're making a thing. What's
Yeah, that's
the
what that's what I mean. You don't want to
Yeah,
learn while you're trying to like make a game, even because there's constantly new tools and new programs coming out. And even within those platforms, Unity has new tools coming out all the time. That's super dope and amazing, and so does Epic and Unreal. So you kind of just gotta pick a side that start development and just kind of run with it.
yeah. And I love the fact that when you were making the game and you were kind of like pushing it out, like console was a space that it landed on first, and then I think Epic Game Store came a little bit after that. Am I correct, or was it simultaneous?
Well, the announcements. So
Hmm.
when we announced it, it was like Steam and consoles, and then Epic Game Store. Just because we didn't like finalize it, and me personally, even though I'm like really open with like everything, I don't really like talking about anything until like it's like set in stone.
Yeah.
So Epic was always on the table. It's just like it took a little bit longer to make sure we had everything in order, and I didn't want to like promise people something and then be like, "Oh, didn't work out."
No, I get that. I don't like to jinx things before they start too. I was the same way when I started this project. I was like, I can't tell anybody until it's actually like the ink is dry, and things are started to get in that way. So I feel you on that. Have you gotten any kind of extra support from the folks over at Epic in that way, in terms of having a placement in the Epic Game Store? Which again, like one of the things that we talk to folks in this series is about is like how is kind of publishing on a that kind of platform, has it been helpful? Has it been really good to kind of continue to do that work alongside a company with such big visibility?
Yeah, Epic's been amazing. Like the first week the game was out, it was pretty much on the front page as one of the newest, like the hottest games. I
Yeah.
forgot how they worded it, but yeah, they like super support the game. Like we were right there with the discounts and like making sure that players could leave feedback, and it's just been amazing all around. I love working with people at Epic.
The other thing that I wanted to bug you about was, so now you've gotten this game out. It is live out in the world. It's doing fairly well in terms of visibility. I think a lot of folks are going to be talking about it for potential game of the year conversations. What have been some of the biggest highlights now that you've kind of had a chance to sit back for a minute? I know, of course, dev work is never done, but sit back for a moment and kind of think about what you've been able to do in not a short amount of time, but in a time that feels like now you're coming into your own. How's it been feeling in that respect?
Yeah, it's been a little bit overwhelming. I haven't really stopped to kind of like relax and like take it all in. I know this been a crazy year, especially
Yeah.
launching the game and promoting it and being on so many awesome like podcasts and just talking to so many dope people. But I would say the highlight has been not thinking about it.
Huh.
Actually, because I've just been taking feedback, looking at like watching people play. Every time I see somebody play on Twitch, I just hop in the stream and watch them play, and just like finding things to fix with the game. And I'm working on this amazing new update that I can't wait for people to see. And I think it's going to just make people even more excited about the game. And after I'm done with that, I'm going to take a break. I promise. I'm going to take a nap, something.
You got to give yourself some time to breathe, fam. You got to give yourself some time to breathe. Alongside some of those accolades, I did just see a little while ago, because this will be shared in the future. So when you're watching this
Oh,
now
okay.
in the present, this would have been in the past. That you also won a Black in
You
Gaming
pulling a death
award.
loop.
Yeah, I'm pulling a death loop. I'm like, I'm gonna jump through this side of the screen and then come out the other side, and it'll be the future. You also won a Black in Gaming award. I just saw. That's pretty fantastic to see that's
Yeah, I'm
that's in
trying
the
to be like
mix
you,
too.
man.
Man, look, I don't know what this is behind me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna just block this with my hand behind me in the shot. But congratulations on that. Again, so much hard work in the space, and now getting a chance to see, some more accolades come your way is pretty fantastic. How you feeling about that?
Yeah, that one was really dope. Like, yes, man. We've been there from the start.
Yeah.
And that one means everything is super awesome to like receive any type of award, but that one kind of was a little bit special.
Yeah, the folks over at Black in Gaming have been brilliant. It's been so cool to see, folks like you and other folks whose work I love, getting their rightful due in this space. So again, congratulations to you on that.
Thanks,
Congratulations
man.
on Never Yield doing super well. It's too early to ask about next projects because that's just way too far down the line. But
No, it's not really.
oh, you got
I'm
you got you
I'm
got
always
joints.
working on stuff.
You got joints
Yeah, I'm
already in the
working on
bag.
stuff.
Okay, okay. Well, I know we can't talk about it yet because it's not ready to talk about it yet. But
It's not ready to talk about, but it's there.
the, I
It's happening.
I stand I stand corrected. No, I love that. Well, thinking about next projects, what are some spaces that you potentially want to play in? You don't have to again share any details, but
Yeah.
what are some places that you're thinking about kind of maneuvering and playing around with? Because I think a lot of folks are now they understand your pedigree now, and now they're like, Ariel puts out bangers now. So like now there's a little bit of pressure, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts about like where does all that kind of
No
move in the
pressure.
future?
Never pressure. So, I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. I like taking mechanics that people don't normally think about anymore and like trying to just like amp them up, seeing what I can do from different styles. So like if you love Never Yield, um, I can't say if you love Never Yield, you'll love the next one because it's probably going to be completely different and something that
Huh.
people aren't really thinking of.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good teaser. That's a very good teaser because then that's like, well, what in the heck could that be? Like, what genre might that be? We don't even know now. I love that. That's fantastic. If there's any folks that have been extremely helpful to you in the process, I'd love for you to share any thoughts because I think one of the things that I'm hoping with this series is to bridge the gap between the kind of techie conversations and the dev story, right? I think there's a fun balance there between like learning what it is to make things with all the tools that we have at our disposals, but alongside that, there's people at the beginning of all these processes that kind of make all of this happen. Are there any folks that you, when you think of the whole process of getting from creation to launch, that really had either some really great words for you or some good advice about maneuvering in the dev space?
Not advice necessarily, but just opportunities really.
Mm.
And it's been mostly other Black people, like
Yeah,
Justin from the Mix. He put me like in his showcase when the game was early on. No one's even seen a trailer for it.
yeah.
He put me in a showcase, and I cut together a trailer in like a night. And it has such a good reaction that I ended up getting a publisher. James from Xbox. I'm blanking on his last name,
James,
but James,
yeah.
yeah, you know who you are, James. You
Hmm.
super dope. he he sat there and talked to me and asked me, all types of things that I was trying to do, and like really, helped me figure out how to maneuver when talking to not publishers, but platforms.
Yep.
And it's just those connections that we built out over, going to GDCs and meeting each other and like having those connections. And without that, the game would be like not on as many platforms and at a lot less of a state. So I appreciate all those people. I try to shout them out as much as I can all the time.
I love it. I love it. Well, before we let you go, one thing I always want to ask people, and I think this might be a thing that goes through, a little touchstone that goes through each one of the episodes. What's the last thing that really inspired you? What's the piece of art, music, something that you saw or absorbed and consumed that really made you think about not only like how you want to do stuff in this space, but just like gave you good vibes?
Have you played It Takes Two? That game is amazing. Like I
That game
was
is
on the
fire.
fence about it, but like playing through it, like I'm like they did so much. There's so many mechanics and how you go about puzzles. It's nonstop puzzles. Man, that game is very inspiring. It should be everybody's game of the year. It should get like a lot more praise than it's getting. I love that game so much, and as well as my favorite game of all time. People always ask me, "What's your favorite game of all time?" It's No More Heroes. No More Heroes 3
Mm.
is a banger. It is crazy, and I love that whole team. Grasshopper is amazing.
Oh, Grasshopper just makes so many fantastic games. They have a place in my heart for real. I want to play It Takes Two, but you need friends for that, and I ain't got no friends. So,
Yeah,
that
it's rough out there. You gotta get two controllers and
it inspired me to go talk to people and make friends. That's what it inspired
You
me
got
to.
you gotta use some of those Xbox controllers that they keep sending you. Just take two of them. Just
I'll be
go at
like,
it.
I'll be like this, catching carpal tunnel in real time. Ariel, thank you so much for being a part of this series and sharing your dev journey with us and everybody at home. Again, folks,
Thanks, man.
go
Thanks, man.
please go check out Never Yield. It's one of my favorite games of 2021. I had a blast with it, and again, I need to figure out how to get one of those. I think you made a vinyl of the music, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's coming out.
I got to get a vinyl
So
of the music.
if you come to Detroit, if you're ever
Yep.
in Detroit, you come by my place. I got a vinyl for you. I cook, so I can show you a few things,
Oh,
and we can make something happen.
I'm gonna have to find, I'm gonna have to get on that plane to make that trip because I got to make it happen. I gotta have a vinyl of that joint. Ariel,
I'll
again,
send
thank
you
you.
one. You got it.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you again. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Please go check out Never Yield. It is a fantastic game, and we'll be doing more of these in the next month. So make sure you're checking out and hanging out on our YouTube channel for more information about the next one of these magical, mystical videos. So we'll see you all very soon. Peace out. We'll see you soon.